Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're becoming the wealth heretic and reclaiming your financial future. We're going to dive straight into the actual mechanics of money and completely tear down those outdated financial rules that are quietly keeping you from building true wealth. We're stepping way outside the traditional narratives to see what's really happening beneath the surface of our modern economy. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so you've probably heard this golden rule your entire life, right? Save 10% of your income and you'll be fine. It's been handed down for decades as this simple, unquestionable common sense. It's a rule that was carefully crafted by older economic systems to make us feel like if we just have enough willpower, we'll succeed.
But let's be real for a second. The math simply no longer adds up. That advice worked brilliantly back in 1970, but in today's world, blindly following this old logic is practically a guaranteed recipe for working until the day you die. So we're going to debunk the myths the wealthy already know are completely false, and let's start with where we live.
So, is owning a home still the ultimate investment? We're consistently told that buying a house is the only real way to build a stable life, and that renting is just throwing your hard-earned money away. But the market landscape has changed drastically since the Hollywood magic of the 1970s.
The reality is, the foundational math has fundamentally shifted. Back in the 1970s, the average home ran you about $23,000. If we adjust that for inflation, it should be roughly $170,000 today. But it's not. The average home right now sits well over $400,000. While wages have barely budged, the cost of entering the housing market has absolutely skyrocketed, creating this massive, undeniable chasm.
And making matters even more difficult, you aren't just buying a home to live in anymore. You're actively competing against massive Wall Street corporations that are buying up thousands of houses at a time, treating them exactly like stocks in a portfolio. Regular buyers are quite literally being priced out by algorithmic machines. It's wild.
But housing isn't the only trap. Let's talk about debt. We're taught from day one that all debt is this dangerous hazard you need to avoid at all costs. For most of us, just the word debt brings up massive anxiety. We view it purely as a heavy weight dragging us down, something to pay off immediately just to stay safe.
But there's a fascinating double standard at play here. While the middle class is trapped by the crushing weight of credit cards and student loans, the truly wealthy operate completely differently. They don't fear debt, they use it as a precision tool. They use it to multiply their wealth and, remarkably, to skip out on paying massive chunks in capital gains taxes.
So how do they actually execute this? Instead of selling their stocks and paying taxes, they follow 3 simple steps. Step 1, they leave their original investments alone so they keep compounding and growing. Step 2, they borrow against those very assets at a super low interest rate. And step 3, they use that low interest loan to fund their lifestyle or launch new ventures, entirely tax-free. It's a system that actively rewards leverage for the rich, while the rest of us are just told to pay our bills on time.
Speaking of staying safe and paying bills, is your savings account really the safest place for your money? We all get that comforting sense of security seeing those numbers sitting quietly in our bank apps, completely insulated from the stock market. But that feeling of security actually exposes you to an invisible, persistent threat.
I'm talking about inflation. And inflation isn't just a slight economic annoyance. It acts as a slow-motion furnace. It steadily and quietly burns away your purchasing power while you sleep. Your account balance might stay exactly the same, but what those dollars can actually buy in the real world is constantly shrinking. But before you start wishing for prices to just drop, look at the alternative: deflation. Deflation is a terrifying economic freeze. Think about it. If you know a car will be $2,000 cheaper in 6 months, you aren't going to buy it today. Neither will anyone else. Demand collapses, businesses are forced to lay off workers, and the entire system spirals into a trap where paying back existing debt becomes mathematically impossible.
Whenever we feel this economic squeeze, the same question always pops up. Why doesn't the government just print more money to bridge the gap and help people out? I mean, on paper, handing out trillions of newly printed dollars sounds like an absolute dream scenario to fix our problems, doesn't it?
But money only works when it represents real work or real resources. Printing money without actual economic growth doesn't create wealth at all. It just dilutes the value of every single dollar you've already worked so hard for. Think back to Germany in 1923. People literally needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy basic groceries, because the bills had lost so much purchasing power they became nothing more than wallpaper.
Which brings us to a much larger global illusion. Every election cycle, we hear the political promise that tariffs are a great way to punish foreign countries and protect our economy. The rhetoric makes it sound like a foreign nation is simply writing a massive check to our government.
But mechanically speaking, that is simply not how a tariff actually works. If an American company imports steel and a 25% tariff is applied, the foreign supplier does not pay that tax. The American company pays the extra tax at the border. To stay profitable, that company then has to raise the prices on the cars or appliances they manufacture. In the end, the foreign country doesn't lose a cent. That extra cost just quietly appears right in your shopping cart. So, with traditional wealth building feeling so incredibly difficult right now, it's really no wonder people look for shortcuts. You might even wonder, is day trading the fast track to financial freedom? If you scroll through social media, the algorithms desperately want you to believe it is. We see endless videos of people flashing sports cars, but what you don't see is the massive mountain of losing tickets hidden behind that algorithm.
The difference between the two approaches is staggering. Day trading is a high-speed sprint. You're betting on short-term volatility, playing a literal game of chance where timing the market is nearly impossible. Real wealth building, like Warren Buffett's strategy, is a marathon. It's about buying quality, holding for decades, and letting compound interest do the heavy lifting over the long haul.
All right, finally, we must unmask one of the deepest illusions of all, the idea that money itself is a real thing with a fixed, unchangeable value. We treat our currency as if it's an immutable law of physics, but the reality is so much more fragile than that.
A dollar, a pound, or a yen, what we call fiat currency, is really just pieces of paper or numbers on a screen. They have zero intrinsic value. They simply represent trust. A fiat currency is only ever as strong as the economy and the government standing directly behind it.
And this fragility is exactly why decentralized systems like Bitcoin have emerged. While government fiat relies entirely on human trust and can be printed endlessly, Bitcoin replaces that trust with immutable math and code. It relies on a transparent system rather than human policy.
So the crucial, absolute game-changing point of this new system is this exact number, 21 million. Unlike government money that can be expanded whenever politicians want, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. It creates a built-in scarcity directly on the digital ledger, ensuring that the supply literally cannot be diluted by printing more.
At the end of the day, these massive financial systems stay in place because they're incredibly complicated and very, very good at hiding the truth inside all that noise. But you no longer have to be a prisoner to this outdated logic. By looking at the actual mechanisms of how money moves, from housing and debt to inflation and the very nature of currency, you take your power back.
If you want to reclaim your financial future, you have to look past the comforting myths and remember this. Don't just follow the rules, understand the game. Because once you actually understand the mechanics, you can start making the system work for you instead of against you. We've definitely peeled back the curtain on the financial matrix in this explainer, so ask yourself, are you playing by the rules designed to keep you working forever, or are you learning the actual mechanics of wealth? If this explainer opened your eyes, make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below. Which deeply ingrained financial myth should we completely unmask next? Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.